It is pretty much never a hot take to say that the reigning NFL MVP is on track to win his team a Super Bowl, but in the case of the Buffalo Bills, that means a whole hell of a lot. As the only franchise to lose 4 consecutive Super Bowls, the folks on the shore of Lake Erie don't take championship talk lightly. But with Joshua Patrick Allen running the ship, they've finally begun to dream again. It may sound impossible to overcome such a fraught history, but Allen has overcome astronomical odds before. Now, the scary truth facing the rest of the NFL is that he's never been better positioned to do it again, and bring the Buffalo Bills to the promised land. To say that Josh Allen is an outlier would be an understatement. The mere fact that he even played Division I football was something of a miracle. He enrolled at Firebaugh High School in a town of just 5,000, standing 5 feet 9 inches. And although he blossomed into a 6'3", 180-pound frame by the time he was a senior, it appeared to be too little, too late. Josh had yet to receive a D1 scholarship offer. His 3,061 yards and 33 touchdowns in that 2013 season weren't enough to convince anyone, not even his hometown Fresno State Bulldogs, to look in his direction, forcing Allen to bet on himself and go the JUCO route. Unfortunately, at Reedley College in Central California, it was more of the same for the farm boy. After shooting up to 6'5" and weighing well over 200 pounds, he was putting up video game numbers, throwing for 2,055 yards and 26 touchdowns in just 10 games, and had a lone D1 offer to show for it. The Wyoming Cowboys were the team to give the kid from Firebaugh a chance to strut his stuff. Allen had all of the tools to be elite, but was something of a diamond in the rough when it came to recruiting. Just as the Wyoming staff were prepared to see their JUCO transfer explode, they were dealt a devastating blow. Allen broke his collarbone just 3 plays into his first game as the starter in Laramie, ruling him out for the entirety of his sophomore season. He redshirted in 2015, but proceeded to put the country on notice in 2016. Allen led the Pokes to their first win over a ranked opponent since 2002, while throwing for over 3,200 yards and 28 touchdowns, adding 7 more on the ground. His 15 interceptions weren't ideal, but there had been enough flashes in his redshirt sophomore season for Allen to be considered a potential NFL draft prospect. After consulting with Carson Wentz, another small school guy who made it big in the NFL, he elected to stay in Wyoming for another year, a return that provided more questions than answers. Allen had all the arm talent in the world, but after losing some important upperclassmen on the roster, his output substantially dropped. When he declared for the 2018 NFL Draft, he was one of the class's most polarizing prospects. Alongside Lamar Jackson, he was seen as something of a wild card up against the likes of Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Josh Rosen. But there was one team that he impressed more than any other during the pre-draft process, with Bills GM Brandon Beane looking back on Josh Allen's pro day.
When I left Laramie, I was really fired up. It wasn't a final decision because he was the first one that we met with, but it's like when you meet your wife, you kind of, you're like, man, maybe you haven't proposed to him yet, but this is the one.
The organization's desire to trade up and get a quarterback was clear from the get-go, as they moved up from 21st to 12th before trading into the top 10 to get their guy. And with that 7th overall pick, the Bills took Josh Allen, a selection which upset a significant chunk of their fan base. With Mayfield and Darnold off the board, Bills Mafia had been praying for Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen! I think he's going to say Josh and we're going to get so My God, Minka Fitzpatrick!
They're traded the 7th pick to the Buffalo Bills.
The early signs in Allen's pro career were questionable. He won the starting job in week 2 of his rookie year, but only because Nathan Peterman was historically bad. Allen finished the 2018 season with more interceptions than touchdowns, but had some highlight reel plays to his name already, both on the ground and through the air. He was hurdling linebackers, yet still faced criticism from plenty around the league, including some of the biggest defensive stars. Jalen Ramsey started a one-sided beef with the rookie, telling GQ, "I think Buffalo Bills draft pick Josh Allen is trash. I don't care what nobody say. He's trash, and it's gonna show too. That's a stupid draft pick to me. We play them this year, and I'm excited as hell. I hope he's their starting quarterback. He played at Wyoming. Every time they played a big school, like they played Iowa State, which is not a big school in my opinion because I went to Florida State and he threw 5 interceptions and they lost by a couple touchdowns or something like that. He never beat a big school. If you look at his games against big schools, it was always hella interceptions, hella turnovers. It's like, yo, if you're this good, why couldn't you do better? He fits that mold. He's a big, tall quarterback. Big arms, supposedly. I don't see it, personally. Year 2 was significantly better, as he helped the Bills to the playoffs, but there was room for improvement. His completion rate was still below 60%, with more than 20% of his throws qualifying as bad. Although he found the end zone 9 times with his legs, Allen also fumbled the ball on 14 occasions, the 3rd highest tally in the league. On the bright side, his league-leading 4 fourth-quarter comebacks and 5 game-winning drives were early indications of his clutchness. As always, whenever there's work to be done or room for improvement, Josh Allen attacked it in the offseason. In 2020, Allen honed in on the one thing that had been plaguing him for his entire career up to that point: consistency. He always had the frame, athleticism, and effort, but his inaccuracies in the passing game had led to high highs and low lows in the NFL. For instance, in the first half of a divisional matchup against the Patriots in 2019, he threw 3 interceptions and was later forced out of the game with a head injury. If he was going to dog on Jalen Ramsey and all of those who doubted him, Allen needed to become a more reliable passer, and that started with refining his mechanics. That sounds like a lot to take in. Not only is it highly technical, but it also completely reworks the throwing mechanics and minute habits that he accumulated over the first 24 years of his life. The craziest part? This worked. Instantly. In 2020, Allen's completion rate shot up to 69.2%, more than 10% higher than his previous best. What's more, he threw for over 4,500 yards and 37 touchdowns, with 8 more on the ground, as the Bills made it all the way to the AFC Championship game for the first time in nearly 3 decades. Sure, he was outclassed by the only man to receive more MVP votes than him, Pat Mahomes, but with a true alpha receiver in Stephon Diggs to AMAT, Josh Allen had catapulted himself into the elite QB discourse damn near overnight. In the years that followed, he showed it wasn't a fluke. Over the next 2 seasons, he passed for over 4,200 yards and 35 touchdowns, guiding the Bills into the playoffs. Unfortunately, they suffered a brutal overtime loss to the Chiefs in 2021 before falling to the Bengals in 2022. But on an individual level, just as Josh Allen had in college, he rose to the very top of the game and stayed there. That's not to say that it was all smooth sailing. His 18 interceptions in 2023 were second most to only Sam Howell. On the ground, it was a different story, doubling his 2022 effort with 15 rushing touchdowns. And when it came time for the playoffs, he truly showed out, tossing no picks, although they once again came up short against KC. The Bills parted ways with Stephon Diggs in the 2024 offseason, which raised even more questions about Josh Allen's future. Sure, he could win games for the Bills and was electric to watch, but had he truly tamed his gunslinger approach? And more importantly, could he beat the Chiefs? Again, once presented with a challenge, Allen worked his way through it and came out of it stronger. With drastically lower passing volume than years past, he arguably enjoyed his best season quarterbacking yet. Not only was his 2.82% sack rate the lowest of his career, but his 74.8 QB rating was the best in the league. Sure, his 3,731 yards through the air weren't quite as eye-catching as we had come to expect from the Wyoming alum, but he was devastatingly efficient all year long. Add in another 500 yards and 12 touchdowns on the ground, and it was clear that Josh Allen was not only the most entertaining, but also the most decisive player in the league in 2024. Although they couldn't seal the deal in the playoffs, narrowly losing out to KC in the AFC Championship game yet again, the 2024 season was momentous for a different reason. Josh Allen became the 3rd Buffalo Bill to be voted league MVP, having won over not just his city, but the entire league. After all, when you reach the AFC Championship game without a 1,000-yard receiver and 13 different pass catchers registering a touchdown, that is an accomplishment entirely in its own right. Josh Allen masterminded the 2nd best scoring offense in the league without his wide receiver 1. And the scary part is, he looks even better in 2025. In a Week 1 shootout against Baltimore, in which Buffalo had to hang tight and overcome a 15-point fourth quarter deficit, the Bills comfortably looked like a championship team. The defense was able to show up when it mattered, as was the offense, which has been dominant ever since. The receiving core has looked much improved, James Cook looks like one of the best backs in football since signing his extension, and Josh Allen looks well worth the record-setting 6-year, $330 million deal he inked this offseason as well. In Week 3, he became the fastest player to reach 300 touchdowns. The guy is a demon on the ground and through the air, and in Year 8, he's finally racking up the records and accolades to show for it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Josh Allen has played at an MVP level in the regular season and the playoffs, and still comes up short. Hell, that's basically been the story of his career up to this point. But 2025 presents the best set of circumstances yet for the Bills to break the mold. The O-line is a top 5 unit, Keon Coleman could be emerging as a legit wide receiver 1, with Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid developing into even more reliable targets for Allen over the middle. As we mentioned, James Cook is unstoppable, and Josh Allen hasn't taken his foot off the gas. He is a more calculated, mature playmaker whose reliability in and out of structure makes him impossible to defend. Meanwhile, their defense added Joey Bosa and Maxwell Hairston at positions of need, although the latter has been on IR for the early portion of the season. It says a lot that these Bills started 3-0 despite two of their most important pieces, Ed Oliver and Matt Milano, battling injury. To make things even better, I think it's fair to say that the rest of the AFC is shaky at best, with Kansas City and Cincinnati looking vulnerable, and with Baltimore already having fallen to these Bills. Maybe, just maybe, this is the year for Josh and the Buffalo Bills to break their postseason curse. But what do you think? Can they get it done? Let us know in the comments.